Hi, I'm Joni de Winter.
And I am Susan Grant.
And we are Bell Street,
who are an events band and production company.
And we're here to talk to you today about our fun and failures
on our journey from being scared to doing it anyway. So today we have a wonderful guest on called Geri Allen.
She is starring in the West End at the minute. She writes, she sings, she's an actor musician, and she's hilarious.
She really is. And she looks a lot like Olivia Colman.
She does.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had some really great chats about training, how useful that is. We've had some chats about
our goals, how we see things and perceive them as well. And actually when you get to do some of the biggest things that you thought you might never do, how that feels.
Yeah. How it feels to be working on a really high profile theatre job and have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Which is some great, and also there's just some great stories.
Yes.
We promise that you will be thoroughly entertained.
Enjoy.
So hello, we are here today with the fabulous Geri Allen, who is, well, actually, a very old friend of mine, but actress, musician, star of stage and screen, I'm going to say. And with us today to talk about just getting on with it, just doing it anyway, as a performer and a creative and a mother as well. So, hi, Geri.
Hi.
Hello.
That's very nice. Less of the old, though.
Yeah, I know. We're not.
We've been friends a long time. We've been friends for years, but we're only 21, so it's weird.
We are. So tell us a little bit about you, if you don't mind.
I'm Geri Allen. So currently, at the moment, I'm doing Operation Mincemeat in the West End, which is full on. But I'm an actor, musician. So a lot of the time, people will save on bands in their show by getting me to play while acting at the same time. And I've been doing it since we graduated in 2004. Well, 2003 we graduated, didn't we? But then I did another course. But yeah, so I've just been a jobbing actor for 20 years, basically. That's what I do. And now I'm a mother to a toddler, which is the hardest job I've had to do.
And the worst paid.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody told me about all these extra hours. God, it's full time.
I'm going to go right in there straight away as you brought your lovely little one up.
Yes.
At being in the West End, I mean, it's a bit of a dream, isn't it, when you're training so much? So how do you deal with that? Being in the West End, night shows, and also having a small person, because also you were pregnant on stage, weren't you?
Yeah, so I did, when I was pregnant, I did Footloose tour up until I was about 8.5 months pregnant. That was intense, but actually probably easier because it was with me the whole time. So it wasn't like I had to worry about anyone looking after my baby because I was literally housing it. It was just stairs. They were the worst.
Footloose, how were your high kicks at being at 8.5 months pregnant?
Not great. I had to play the sax in it, and there was a bit, so right at the beginning in the opening number there's a bit where I had to stand on a sort of fake car, but it was really a seat, stand up on that and play this sax solo, which what you don't realize when you've not been pregnant before is how much just basically everything shifts around in you, and then you just don't have muscles or anything. And me trying, like, I'd probably say 70% of the time that solo was just me going. So like these poor people going, oh my God, this amazing actor musician show, and then this just hugely pregnant woman stands on a chair and goes for a little while and then walks off. But yeah, it was that was, and just I was very good because in my other parallel life, I've done a lot of health and safety stuff. And so I wrote my own risk assessment, my own pregnancy risk assessment, and I put lots of stuff in there that because obviously it was during the end of COVID as well. So, and I just put stuff in there like, you must find me a like self-contained accommodation if there's a COVID outbreak, and I need a dressing room by the stage with a toilet and all this kind of stuff. And it was just when it all kicked off, we did have a COVID outbreak. They were like, oh, no, I'm sure it's okay if you still have the room with the woman that's got COVID and just, she'll just avoid you. And it's like, no.
It's in my.
Oh,
So,
well done.
yeah, I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. So if anyone wants any pregnancy risk assessments while they're on tour, come to me. I'll happily do them.
Well, I imagine there aren't many advocates for that, like really outspoken. So in
No.
any workplace, really, but
Yeah.
especially, I imagine on stage.
And it is, and like, yeah, and what you were saying about being in the West End, and it is a dream. I remember when I got pregnant, and it was a much longed for, like we did IVF, to have Rex, and did I time it, for the tour? Maybe, but it's really hard, even though you want this thing. I remember thinking, I'm never going to work again. When I was leaving the tour, I was like, I'm never going to work. How can I work? I can't do a tour. I Operation Mincemeat was my West End debut at however old I was, 42, I think. And I had a child. So yeah, it was, I never thought I'd work again. And then I got that job. And the job, I auditioned for it actually when they were first looking for extra people in 2019 and loved them. I auditioned with Jack Malone. We were in the same audition together. And he got it and I didn't, obviously. But I was just like, I love this show and I love these people. And they gave me the most wonderful rejection email. And it was just like, hopefully our paths will cross. And then obviously when they were coming to the West End, it was just because the reason why I didn't get it was I was too like one of them, just too similar energy. And then I was like, well, it worked in my favor now because now I'm going to cover you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that job, but it was hard. I was still breastfeeding when I started rehearsals, so they got me a little booth in the corner of the rehearsal room where I would go and pump. So, but it wasn't soundproofed or anything. It wasn't a separate room. So they'd just all be rehearsing and they'd be like, ah, 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 in the corner of the room. And yeah, and several times, I'd knock it over and it would just be breast milk all over the studio floor. But yeah, we got through. But it was hard. It was hard. From about 10 months, I haven't done bedtimes other than holidays and stuff, and that was really hard. And I was really worried that it would affect my relationship with him. But actually, they're pretty resilient, and it's been wonderful for my husband Ollie to spend so much time with him as well. He was not working for, like, he had paternity leave, but then he was made redundant last year. He's back working now, but so he had basically 11 months at home with Rex while I was out working. And I couldn't have done it without him being there, or my mother-in-law who lives around the corner, who it's her only grandchild. And so she's just besotted and wants him all the time. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, without them, I do not know how people do it. It's hard because as much as people say to you, we're really supportive, we're really blah, 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 they're not. They don't think about it. So when you ask for stuff, they're like, oh, that might not be fair because we don't let such and such bring their dog in. And it's like, well, it's different. Kind of a different thing. But yeah, so everyone's very supportive. I'm in this amazing mummy theatre group called Mummy Banter, where everyone can just confidentially just get advice and chat about I want to say the hazards, but it's not the hazards of being in the industry as a parent, but yeah, just all the sort of trials and tribulations, because you do feel sometimes it's just you like, it must just be me, everyone else looks like they're having a lovely time social media, and then you're actually like, no, this is just really hard for for everyone. But yeah, it's a wonderful show. I love doing it. It is just fully intense with a 2.5-year-old. But he's going to grow up, so I'm just sort of sucking it up, and just using really good eye cream.
We'd
For
really
now.
like to see the show.
Please.
Keep talking about it, so we'll get some dates in after this.
Yes.
And you guys won some awards as well. I mean, we're going through your socials really of what we.
I just loved
see.
what you wore. Was it to the What's on Stage?
Yeah.
You got like this amazing jump.
I felt like one of the baddies in Superman 2, and that was the vibe I was going for. Just yeah. But it was so funny because I had like 2 dresses that I was like, oh, I could wear this and this, because everyone was like, yeah, we're going to wear a dress. And I'd actually had that jumpsuit for ages, and I was meant to wear it somewhere else and I didn't. And I'd always wanted to wear it and I'd never found anywhere to wear it to. And then I was just like, do you know what? Sod it. I'm gonna wear this. And yeah, so many people were like, oh my God, I love it. And I'm like, yes, I know. Love it. I recommend wearing a sequin jumpsuit to any event.
Yeah.
Susan rocks a sequin jumpsuit quite a lot in our
stuff. Whenever you can, really.
Yeah.
Just whenever you can. Just in life.
It's all fun and games until you have to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I know. And then it's
this arms with a sequin. Yeah.
I can't remember when we were on a shopping trip, or whether it was another time, when you have that severe panic in the dressing room when you tried on a jumpsuit or a play suit I'd tried on, and I literally couldn't get out of it, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to walk to the till with this and go, yeah, I'll have this, please. Yeah, I want to wear it now. And then cut myself out of it. But just the sheer panic. I think every person, every woman would have gone through that. I've basically got to cut myself out of a play suit or a jumpsuit.
In H&M normally.
Yeah, I know. And then it's just like you either get makeup down the front of it and you're like, oh, or you're worried that you're going to rip it, and then you just have to like not get eye contact with the people at the dressing room, just be like, yeah, thank you very much, yeah, no, they're not right, and run. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's weird, I don't know why they've got a rip in the crotch. Anyway, bye.
Weird design. Yeah. Yeah, I know, they look great. Was it fun? Was it a fun awards?
Yeah.
Are award ceremonies actually quite boring? Or
yeah.
Yeah,
it's really funny because you see loads of people that you know, but a lot of it's really fake. Like there's people that you sort of know, but you don't know how you know them, or they know you, and then you're having these conversations with people, and it is really odd. And also we didn't win at the What's on Stage Awards, and so it is different. It's not like they don't, it sounds bad because obviously they do mean something and it's really nice to win awards, but you're not going there going, oh well, we're going to win the award. But there is a moment when you sit down going, how do I get to the stage if we win? And then you just feel stupid for thinking, like, you think, I hope nobody heard me think that because then it's like, great, yeah, well done. But like the Olivier's, winning the Olivier was something else. That was incredible at the Royal Albert Hall. And we had a little box. I say little box. We had it was a big box. And yeah, it was insane. And then the after party. And then there's just people coming up and talking to you who you know, but they don't have a clue who you are. They're just having a little chat to you. And then so a director friend of mine, Derek Bond, I didn't know he was going to be there. I didn't know that his show, Dinosaurs Live, I think it was, he won the Olivier for best kids show or whatever. And so it's amazing that I was there to watch him win that. And then obviously we were chatting at the after party, and he just had this full-on conversation with this man going, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And the guy was going, yeah, it's so well done on the win, blah, 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 blah. We must meet up. We've got to go out for that lunch. We've been talking about it for ages. And he was like, yes, yes, yes. And then he walked off and he was just like, I don't actually know who he is. I thought he was somebody else. And I realised within 2 seconds that he wasn't. But then they were just both going, yes, must go for lunch. Let's meet up. Let's have it. And it's just so funny.
So everyone can do it.
Yeah. I mean, half the people get really confused with me anyway, because they think, not that I look like her now, but because I look like Olivia Colman. A lot of people say I look like Olivia Colman. So there's just really funny moments where people are sort of like, hey, and then they're like, oh, but is it? No, it's not. No, it can't be. Why is she here? And I thought she was taller. Anyway, hi. But they've already started talking to me. So then it's just like, hi.
Yeah.
I did have a funny moment. So at my gym, it's quite posh. I am not posh, just to clarify. It makes it sound like, look at all these award ceremonies I'm going to and go to this posh gym. But I live in Chiswick, and there happen to be a lot of people around here that are, so Colin Firth, I don't know if he still lives here, but I accidentally followed him once because I was like, oh, it's Colin Firth, and just followed him. And then I was like, I don't need to go that way. But in my gym, there's loads of sort of famous people who go there. And one of them is David Tennant. I don't know if he still goes there. He won't after this. I'm not telling people where it is. And I was just doing some exercises and I wanted to see in the mirror. And this guy was just in the way. And I'm like, oh, it's so annoying. Can he just move? And it was David Tennant, I realised. He's really tall. I didn't know that. He's got like a 5'11" energy about him, but he's 6 foot something, 6'2", 6'3", or something stupid. But then I had this thought, it would be really funny because I get people coming up to me all the time going, oh, has anyone ever told you that you look like Olivia Colman? And I'm always like, oh, yeah. Ha. I thought it'd be really funny to go up to him and just be like, oh my God, has anyone ever told you that you look like David Tennant? And he'll go, no, no, I am David Tennant. I'd be like, yeah, me too. Yeah, we should do something. We should do like a thing together. It'd be really funny. But I just chickened out. But maybe if I see him again, I'll do it and get banned from the gym. But yeah.
It's funny when you meet celebrities or you think, I remember you telling me you'd gone to an audition and years ago, and you came out and you were talking to this guy and going, well done. Wasn't it the guy from Snow Patrol or something?
No, it's from Keen.
From Keen.
Yeah, so I was doing a voiceover, and the people that were producing the voiceover also had a offshoot where they managed bands or a band, and it happened to be Keen. And we were in, so I just finished, or I was just picking something up or dropping something off, and he was there. And then we had that, it was like a real Notting Hill moment where I was just like, oh, hi, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a singer. And I was like, oh, yeah, me too. I do a bit of singing. Oh, it's terribly hard, isn't it? And then yeah, we were just chatting, and I went, well, and I said something really patronizing, like, oh, just, keep going. We've got to keep going, haven't we? And there's just this niggle in my mind. I was like, where do I know this band from? It was at the height of their fame, and Top of the Pops was still on. And I got home that night and they're on Top of the Pops. And I'm like, oh, right, okay. So it's the classic, oh, what do you do? Singer. Brilliant. Oh, it's very hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did grab Quentin Tarantino's bottom.
Okay.
Because we'll just, and that's it. Anyway, lovely to chat. Bye. I was watching Bill Bailey, I think, at Riverside Studios. This is years and years and years ago. And I could see everyone coming up to their seat and looking along this aisle. And I was like, oh, how boring. There's somebody famous there, whatever. And then I could just see Joe Cornish, as in from Adam Buxton and Joe Cornish, the DJ, now director. He directs a lot of stuff. And so I was just like, oh, it's Joe Cornish that they're looking at. Anyway, as we were walking down, I fell down, like tripped down the steps and landed on the man in front of me, but sort of caught his buttocks. That's how I thought. That's how I fall into everyone. And yeah, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he turned around and it's Quentin Tarantino. I was like, hi, sorry. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't mind. But yeah.
Always have matching eyebrows. Susan does that.
I can't do the other one.
It's taken years of practice and it's not very good, but yeah.
So you and I obviously had a history years ago, but we went out to the theatre with some friends in Bristol.
Yes.
And we were sat watching this brilliant show.
We'd been recommended to go and see the show that we didn't know much about, but someone had said it was like our insane musical that we'd written.
Mm-hmm.
So we just...
And we were sitting there quite happily, and this screen appeared, and
Oh,
Queen was a representation of the Queen
Slash Olivia Colman.
played by you. And I
Yeah.
had to sit there and I was like, I know her.
I know.
God.
That's, do you know what? Linus and Joseph, we met during the pandemic. Just on my friend Alex set up this play reading group called Corona Days Plays, and loads of us got together. It started out where we'd all be eating our dinner while all the screens were on Zoom, and by the end of it, we'd be like meeting up weekly. And it got really like cameras were only on when you were speaking. Everyone had backdrops, and I'll send you through some footage because it got really in depth. But they were on that, and they did. I just fell in love with them. We used to do stupid stuff. So afterwards, everyone would stay on and chat online, and then we would just be texting each other, daring ourselves to do stuff like go and like walk into the door, or just pick up a cushion and slam it down on the floor a few times and then just sit back down or fall over, or we'd do stupid stuff and see if anyone noticed. But yeah, I just fell in love with them. And then their stuff that they do, he did a cats show, Jellicle, how to be Jellicle,
Yeah,
I should know. But and yeah, I was just like, I'm obsessed with you. And then he said he was doing this Diana show, and would I be the Queen? I was like, absolutely. And it's been one of the greatest. Literally, we filmed over 2 days, my stuff. But then I've been all around the world. I've just got back from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done Australia, Canada, everywhere. America, they've done places there. But yeah, it's just insane. And it's one of my favorite jobs. And I do every now and again whenever they are anywhere, I'll just get a little text message going, "Oh, hey, I just saw you." I was like, yeah. I think most of I don't have that many social media followers. I'm not a massive, I'm not one of these people that has hundreds of thousands, but I always get an influx whenever they do a show. I always get an influx of followers. People going, I'm like, well, you're going to be a bit bored because it's just like me occasionally showing my son, but not often, or me in doing a picture for me in the show or some boring thing.
Or in
But
a
yeah,
jumpsuit.
in a jumpsuit, exactly.
It's one of our other guests recommended to go and see the show, Jason Ward, and he had talked about them so much. So we did go and see Gwyneth as well.
Oh yeah,
which was brilliant. So, and they're sort of on our scary list to ask on the podcast. So
oh my God, no, I'll just text them now. I'll text them when we're done. They'll do it. Especially but I can't wait to see if that's your inspiration stuff for your musical. I'm thrilled. I'd love to see that. What are you doing? What are you doing? Or is it a secret?
Well, that was our musical that we wrote a couple of years ago, Hugh the Musical. And he's asleep at the minute, Hugh the Musical. We're resting him for a little bit.
He's tired.
He's tired and we're not sure what he means. So. But it was a massive learning. We kind of wrote it as like an experiment, and then it ran for much longer than we thought it would. And it was kind of similar vibes to that. So if anyone's listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, Diana, what's it called?
The untold and untrue story.
Yes.
That's lucky I knew that. Otherwise,
thank you. And also Gwyneth Goes Skiing.
Yeah.
Our Awkward Productions 2 shows, but Diana, Untrue and Untold has a very similar energy to how we kind of created Hugh. So it was nice to go and see someone be like really successful and like really imaginative with that kind of structure of a show. It was really inspiring.
I do genuinely think they're geniuses, whatever. They're just because they don't. I get caught up whenever I'm writing bits and bobs. I get caught up with being a perfectionist about it, and I can't put that out because whatever. Whereas, no, is that going to work? Is it not going to? Which I think everyone does, but it's like they just do it and it works. They're not, and maybe they are. when they're not, maybe they have moments where they're like, is this going to work? But I just remember when they sent me the script and I'm like, this is utterly crazy and I'm obsessed with it. And I just think that's the thing. It's so unexpected. People are expecting some, I don't want to say clever little twist because they do have clever little twists, but they're expecting something, oh, well, they'll do that, but then they'll do this. And it's like, no, they just go, "Ah," and I love it. I love it. I think they're brilliant.
It's trusting a process, isn't it, as well? And I guess we've found as well, being prepared to suck, being prepared to fail.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I find with any stuff that I'm writing. Somebody said to me the other day and I can't remember what they said, but it's about, I'm going to paraphrase and it's not going to be as good. They said it in a really succinct way, but if it's not, you need to put it out there to be able to then make it good. So you just need to, because I do a lot of dramaturgy work with people. And I find that great. Like, I'm just really good at like seeing a story or seeing a whole, or like you being like, oh, you could do this, blah, 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 with other people's stuff. But yet with my own, I can't even put a first draft out because I'm like, oh, God. And it's like, I just need to write it and give myself permission for it to be crap, basically, and then go from there and then change it. But it's that of putting stuff out there. The one thing that I do think that we need to revisit is we were writing a sitcom.
Susan
And
told me about this.
yeah, and I actually every now and again I revisit it. I just look at it and I'm like, this is actually brilliant. And there's nobody that's done anything like it, really. I mean, we were inspired by stuff like The Green Wing and stuff. And there's a sort of tiny bit, but not that much, of League of Gentlemen type weirdness. But I just every now and again I go back to it and I'm like, this is actually brilliant. We just need to finish it. We just need to finish that episode and do it. Yeah. Set in a morgue, but it has nothing to do with dead bodies. That was the thing that we said. Our thing was it's set in a morgue, but we don't like there are dead bodies there, obviously, because you're in a morgue, but it was never really about anything that happened to those dead bodies. I think one of them goes missing. I think my favorite thing was Johnny, who's a dead body who's been there for years. Nobody's claimed him. And they just sit him in the office and they go and speak to him.
Barbara.
Barbara. And yeah, I mean, we've got everything in there. We had time travel, David Hasselhoff, obviously. Klingon. We had the receptionist learning Klingon. But yeah.
Anyway, let's not give too much away. You never know. It might
It sounds almost finished. That I'd watch it.
I think the first episode is nearly done, and we did write a thing. It's there. No one can do it now because we've got the.
It's called I've got you under my skin.
Yes. Let's finish it. That's what I'm going to do now. I've got loads of time.
Yeah, I've got nothing on.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not like, full time looking after my son and then going into work at night. No, it's fine. But yeah, please.
What else do you write? Do you, you said you write in projects and stuff. What do you write? Do you write plays or?
So I did a lot of cabaret stuff before. Like I did a cabaret that we took to Edinburgh and then did like a Crazy Cox one night. But I do a lot of sort of sketch stuff or sitcom-y stuff, or character work is what I've been writing at the moment. Like I've got a character that I'm just doing called Yvonne Jessup, who is a cross between Leslie Garrett and Jane McDonald. Inspired very much by those two. I'm also doing, and this is just a cabaret, it's not really a thing, but every year I do this thing called Cliffmas, where I send to people, just some people, they don't ask for it, and a lot of them don't want it. But I send a picture of Cliff Richard every day until Christmas Day, from his calendars. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his calendars. They are a lot, but I send a picture every day to people, and people start by, they're like, what is this? They try to question it, and I never explain it. And then by about day 17, they're fully on board. They want it all year. But when I was on tour for Footloose, uh, I was working with Darren Day, who is good friends with Cliff. And when I was leaving to go on maternity leave, Darren had got a video from Cliff to me saying good luck. But what had happened, because he was like recording in Miami or something, it had all got confused. And so he sent me this video where he's wishing me luck for becoming a grandmother. But it couldn't be more perfect. Darren was like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to get him to do another one?" I was like, "This couldn't be more perfect." With him say, I think he said about 2 or 3 times that I was becoming a grandmother, and I'm like, "This is wonderful." So I'm doing a show where basically I'm going to do like the 12 days of Cliffmas and explain not why, because I don't think I know why, but just sort of because also some of his tunes are absolute bangers. Devil Woman, we used to sing that all the time. Devil Woman, Wired for Sound. Oh, there's some absolute classics in his rep, which he didn't write. Obviously, somebody else wrote it for him. But so it's just an excuse to sing some Cliff songs, show the pictures, and then show that video at the end.
When are you putting this out? Because we'd really like to see it.
It will be Christmas. It's going to be November, December. I'm going to put it on. But yeah, you must you must come. I might get you to come in and because there's a couple of bits I need some more people to sing with me. So I'll get you to come in and you can um do a little trio of a Cliff Richard song.
Why
But
don't you
yeah.
tour it around to Dorset?
Yeah.
Come down here.
Yeah, I
We're
will.
going to Dorset.
Yeah.
I actually think it would go down really well. Well, I'm doing it. It's on the list. I'll write it on my to-do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What do you think about Edinburgh Fringe as like a place to put out new shows? Because we've heard like conflicting advice about it. What's your advice? Because I know like quite a few successful shows have come up through it, but then some
Yeah.
no, it's like a complete drain on resources and stuff.
It is a complete drain if you're not a name. I think especially now, we went in 2015, but even then it was changing. And I think it's the most amazing place and the most amazing thing to do a show. Just if you can do that, you can do anything. And we had an amazing time putting our show on. It didn't give us anything, like we weren't suddenly launched with this cabaret show to do anything, but it was a really worthwhile experience. But it was bloody hard because we were, especially when you're producing it yourself, you're producing it, so you're in charge of getting the slots on the mile and leafleting and doing all this stuff and getting people in, so it's a lot of pressure, but it is an amazing experience, and I think everyone should try and do it once. But it just, unless you are a big name, because now you have all the promoters going in for the big name people in the big venues, so they can go and they're told that they have to go and do Edinburgh and stuff, and they get the big venues and they get all this, that, and the other, and it's great. But it's sort of, a lot of people don't break through. I don't think people break through in Edinburgh anymore. I think you're either an established name. I think for people like you and I, if we're going to Edinburgh to watch stuff, we discover new people. I remember I went in 2009, which was before it sort of changed. There were really great sketch groups like Cardinal Burns, who then went on to, they're now acting and stuff, and they did a sketch show on TV. Gemma Whelan was there doing Radiant Vermin, I think, and she was doing stuff up there and doing Chastity Butterworth, I think. And there's just like loads of, back then there was loads of stuff that I've discovered people and follow them, but I think now you don't go there to be discovered or to make it. You go there for the experience of being in Edinburgh. So it's well worth doing, but you do need money and, but also if you're doing cabaret up there, the cabaret group of people, like there was a weekly check-in where we'd all go and hang out with all the cabaret people, so Legato Chocolat and all these other people that were up there at the same time, and we'd all meet up and support each other, and that was wonderful. So the sort of camaraderie of being in Edinburgh was great, and I do not regret it for a second, but it was hard. I couldn't do it right now. I'm too tired. Maybe in 10 years, when I'm really old and he's grown up.
Yeah.
But you should go. You should go and do it.
Well, I haven't even been, like,
Just into Edinburgh. No, I haven't.
out for lunch.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You've been.
I meant it's the festival.
No.
Yeah, you should go. That is intense in itself. The good thing about being up there for the month, not on your finances, but you do get to leisurely see the shows. Whereas when you visit for like 4 days, you're just like, "Ah, I've got to see this at this time, and then we've got to run to here, and it's quite intense. But it is worth, yeah. Go for a little weekend, and then go up there.
Okay, we'll do it.
Good.
So quite a few of our guests that we've talked to, there's been sort of a running theme. We've been talking about like how people get into the creative side of stuff, and that sort of feeling that if you have it in you, you can't ignore it, really. But when it comes to training and education, I don't know where I'm going with this now, but
I'm intrigued.
But because you went to we went to university together.
Yeah.
Well, on the music course.
Yep.
I was on dance course.
Yeah, and then I did East 15 for a year.
Oh, did you find that useful when you look back? We talked to Ben Hurley last week.
Ah,
And
hi, Ben.
I know.
Hi.
Susan's like
Yeah.
alumni.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're just interested in how whether it's a positive thing with education. Or...
It's really interesting. I talk about this a lot actually with people just randomly in the street. They don't want to talk about it, but I do. I found it really useful for me to go and do a postgrad. I loved East 15. I knew when I went there, I was just like, this is the place for me. I had a connection to it the moment I went and looked around because I got into there and I got into Mountview, and I was just like, even though Mountview had the bigger name and stuff, I was like, no, I want to go here. I just felt an affinity to it, and I wanted to do it to actually learn rather than, I think a lot of people want to go to these places to get the name. And I think there is still that around of getting the name of places, but I don't think you need to go to somewhere to train. Like I would say most of my training has been the 20 years since I graduated. Like every single show I've done or project that I've done or worked on or whatever, I've always gone into it going, I want to learn something from this. And it's either watching someone and going, they're amazing, how are they doing this? And I want to learn how to do that. Or I do not want to be like that person. That I won't say who they were and I won't say what job it was, but I was on a job, and one of the guys in the show, it was like Quantum Leap, where Sam Beckett jumped into his body halfway through the show because he would suddenly go like he'd just woken up. And also he did this thing where it's like he was counting between his lines. So he wasn't listening to you. He was just going, I've said my line and now I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say his line again. So sometimes, depending on what had gone on, he'd cut you off. Other times there'd be a huge gap between speaking. And it was just, I just remember going, okay, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be where people are like, oh God. And I do think that's important. And I think a lot of the time there is a sort of there is a movement now of people like, you don't need to train and, it shouldn't be about that. And I know some wonderful people who haven't trained as such, but they are also open to learning on what they're working on. And I think the problem comes when people are like, I don't need to train and I don't need to change. And then they're just not listening. And, there's also the snobbishness of like when people get a show and people are like, oh, I trained for 3 years and now they've just given it to a TV personality. And it's like, well, yeah, but that person also did, train. It's like, and we said about Gemma before, but she did the same course as us. She's an amazing dancer. But obviously she's become known for, TV and comedy stuff. But if she was to do dance in something and somebody were to be like, well, you know, they've just given it to her because she's a name. Well, yeah, they probably have. That has, you know, been some influence in the decision, but also she can do it. She's good and she has trained. And it's just, yeah, I find it. My niece is currently applying for like drama schools and stuff now, and it's really interesting to watch that, remembering how I felt when I got like turned down by GSA. She just got turned down by GSA, and I was like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, you know.
All of that.
Oh yeah, sorry, Guildford School of Acting. But yeah, I don't. I think you should do it if you want to do it, and it does make stuff easier, as in connections with people, because a lot of the stuff and the work and everything is because we train together or we work together, and you're like, oh, and everyone knows each other. So it gives you that. But I think as far as like names of stuff, you know, some drama schools have had a pretty bad rap recently with stuff going on. So yeah, I think the one thing that they teach you at drama schools, I think, is certain etiquettes, like, you know, not to be late and this kind of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily learn just on the job, other than when you get told off. But it teaches you that, and it teaches you a certain work ethic. But I also think that they can be really damaging. I remember my combat teacher saying, and this is one of the most useful things, it sounds really dark, but it's one of the most useful things that somebody said to me while training, is everyone wants you to fail. And I was like, oh. And he was like, no, but like teachers in drama schools, a lot of them don't want you to do well because it makes them have to acknowledge the fact that maybe they aren't doing as well as they thought they would or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you've just got to not worry about that. But yeah, I'm glad that I went, and I had a lovely time, and I met some great people in both uni and East 15. But I don't think you need to do that to, like, you definitely don't need to go and do a postgrad to then make it in the industry. You just need to have gumption and some chutzpah.
What instruments do you play? Just because I know there are a few. I've always been...
Yeah, so I play the accordion, the tenor sax, the alto sax, the flute, piccolo, piano, and I can pick up a clarinet and know my way around it, but I wouldn't ever put myself forward as a clarinetist. I think that's it. Recorders, obviously, penny whistle. They're all the same. I mean, anything that I can put in my mouth, I can play.
Like good.
So were you originally, did you set out to act, sing, be a musician, or what was your...
I always wanted to, so I've grown up, like, you know, we were in the church choir, and my dad's a singer, or he was a singer in a choir and stuff, and so we've always done that. And I knew by the time I took my GCSEs and A levels that I wanted to do musical theatre, basically, is what I wanted to do. And I would have said that singing was my that's what I felt confident in, singing. And I played the flute and the piano when I was before I went to uni and stuff. I played them, but then it was after that it was more castability stuff. Like I knew that I could play the sax because it was the same fingering as the flute. A clarinet is the same embouchure as the saxophone, but it's different fingering. Clarinet's got the same fingering as the treble recorder. Blah, blah, blah. So it's all these things that I then picked up, and it was literally for, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I can play all this stuff. And it has, like, being an actor muso, especially of my casting, got me a lot of work because yeah, not many people, you know, you sort of make yourself indispensable. Like the accordion was just because I wanted an instrument that I could play singing and play at the same time, which I couldn't do with the other wind instruments. And actually, you know, I've had so much work on the accordion, and I taught myself it in like 4 days because I bought it and I put it on my CV. And then my agent went, I've got you an audition for Warhorse next week. So I spent 4 days basically learning how to play the accordion and learning the material. Yeah, I didn't get the part, but that wasn't because of the accordion. It's just because I'm me. But yeah, so I always wanted to be a singer, like do musical theatre. But now, like a lot of my work is I do a lot of comedy and clowning and stuff, and that I did learn at East 15, and I love it, and improvisation and stuff like that. So I'd say now, like my strengths in shows would be my comedy. That's where I get um
You
and
did
just, willing to look silly.
you yeah, we've learned to do that
Yeah.
a bit more. It's I was going to say because you came away from everything for a while, didn't you? You were
Yeah, so and also I think it's because I was never going to be an ingenue, like my look and everything and my style, because it was also so prescriptive back then as well. You had to be skinny and young and 5'4" or whatever, and it was so, and I wasn't that. Um, and I always knew when I remember saying to my mum once when she was having but you've been to university and done that, because I remember having a moan at her like, oh, I'm just working in an office now and I could have done that without spending all this money. And she was like, yeah, you're a lot more debt now. I was like, great, thanks, mum. But I do remember saying to her, I feel like I'll get more parts when I'm older. And I sort of did bits and bobs. So finished drama school in 2004, and then I did like a tour in 2006 and 7 of like a UK tour. Huh?
that came and lived with me, and that's
Yes, yeah.
because your life changed a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Got a divorce. Um, yeah, because I got married very young, and then thankfully, yeah, that was probably a big turning point because I moved out of London. I was living in Bury St Edmunds, and I just, couldn't do stuff. I was traveling in for the odd audition. I had an audition for Doctor Who, but then it was like traveling in for these odd auditions that would come up, these odd castings, which were 10 minutes, and I'd be traveling for hours. And I'm like, "Oh, I can't be bothered." And then I got this local show of, it was Robin Hood the first year, and then Toad of Toad Hall the second year. And yeah, I loved it and did that. But then, and so then obviously my personal life completely crumbled because I was playing Little John and fancied Robin Hood, which was fun. Um, that wasn't why I split up with my husband, just to clarify. I don't want people thinking, God. Um, but yeah, so then I moved in with you in Degama Place. We had much silliness. And then yeah, I was working in an office. I was just doing facilities management and sort of getting the odd thing here and there, but not much, like getting the odd commercial casting, but not getting the job or whatever. And then I was pretty high up. I say high up, I was like facilities management, but pretty well thought of, managing a big team in Warner Music. And then I happened to do this show, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, at the Rose and Crown in Walthamstow at the same time as working full time. And then my agent, which is they are JBR Creative Management now, but they were a friend of mine as well, and they came to see the show and were like, "I'd like to be your agent," and that was in 2014. And then since then, it just sort of exploded, and that was, I was 34 when everyone's talking about, what you're going to do if you haven't made it by 30. It's like, just try again. So yeah, and since then, and I've changed agents. I'm with a different agent now, and he's wonderful. Will Marsh at Orlando Gray. And yeah, it's just gone from strength to strength. But it is weird you talking about earlier, like the West End being a dream, being the pinnacle. And it's this thing, and people talk about this all the time, but when you get to that point that you've wanted the whole time, and then you go, oh, right, okay. It doesn't magically change everything. I'm still have to work hard, and I'm still, I still have imposter syndrome and I still feel underappreciated or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay. So I just need to get on with being me and doing work that I love, and the rest will work itself out. But yeah, it's weird when you go, if I were to say to myself 10 years ago even, you're going to be doing this, I'd be like, you are amazing. That is amazing. Whereas now to myself, I'm like, oh, God, I could try harder. I could do this. I don't go out after the show with anyone because I've got to get home. Just like, I'm so boring. But like my 10-year younger self would be like, you're amazing. So I sort of have to try and remember that, really. But yeah. I'm happily married now, by the way, to a wonderful husband.
The Robin Hood.
So, it's Robin Hood. No, it's the best thing that happened to me actually. Getting a divorce the first time. Thoroughly recommend it. Because it just made me like go, what do I want to do? Like it was horrible at the time, as you'll know. 'Cause it's just I think we went mad. Because it was just we just had a lot of trauma in that house. It was just a trauma house. But my God, we had a lot of fun. It's different though, isn't it? When you get older and you've got commitments and you've got to be slightly sensible. It's really annoying.
We do talk a lot about performing through trauma and when life, shit hits the fan and you've got to go on stage or you've got to go and perform and you've got to hold it together for the other people you're performing with. And there is that whole side of it. I guess you can't let it go too much because you've got to keep it together.
Yeah. There's a really great I can't remember his name. Anthony Mendel, I think is his name, who he does this book, and it's probably not what I'm sure it's At Left Brain Turn Right, it's called. And it's just all about acting stuff and blah, 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 blah. And I did some of his classes in London, but he says this really great thing about whenever you're coming into anything, you as a person influences what's happening. So say in life anyway, me being horrendously ill last night is affecting me now. It just will affect how I am. But in life, if you've just had road rage and then you come in and you've got to speak to somebody about something, it's going to affect you and you might be angrier. And it's all this stuff about, even as actors, what's happened to us in the day affects our performance. So it will affect your performance. And as actors, it's our job to use that, but also to, as other actors, if somebody's giving you something different, to listen to it as well. And I've found that really interesting. I've really taken that on board about, you just deliver a line, especially when you're in a long running show, and it could be the same every night, but it's not, because, stuff will change. You deliver a line slightly differently, or sometimes you'll completely mess the line up. Like when I said to Holly, who was playing Monty, I meant to say you're making a spectacle, and I said you're making it sexual, which just added an extra frisson to the scene. But yeah, and other stuff, like when I was playing Monty, there's a line where he leaves the stage and he says, Hester, I'll need you too. You've had donkey's years at the embassy. But I said, you've had donkeys at the embassy. And created this whole new thing about why is that relevant? Why is it relevant that she's got donkeys? And why is Monty choosing to bring it up now at this moment in the war? What are they going to do with the donkeys? And it just made me laugh every time I think about that. If I ever I'm on as Monty and I get to that line, it's very hard not to corpse. You've had donkeys at the embassy, let's go. But yeah, I do find, trauma, but also you don't have to. I think there's a lot of people who are like, you can only have trauma if, you're an artist, you can only be an artist if you've had trauma, if you've had whatever. And it's not strictly true. I think it helps because it's the way you've dealt with it, but you don't have to have. A lot of people who are like just very angsty and they need to have the drama and whatever. You don't need to do that. You can just make your life a bit easier. You don't have to be like that. But yeah, most artists, most people that I know who are acting have some kind of story, some kind of sort of shocking story where but also they just tell it in like a jokey way. We all use comedy as a defense mechanism, don't we? In this room, we're all using comedy as a defense mechanism, but it's like when you say something really traumatic and you're like doing it as a joke and you've set it up, you've done the beginning, the middle, you've done a punchline, and then they're all just going, that's actually really bad. And you're like, oh, yeah, it is. Oh, okay. That's weird.
Maybe that's why, like, I was just thinking about women in comedy and stuff, and like that kind of trauma linked, and then like using comedy to kind of express it. And like often we don't talk about well, we do amongst ourselves, but you don't really feel like to talk about it in general in life and stuff. And often our shows are like linked to like some shit thing that's happened, and then we just make it into a funny thing. And I think it's kind of acceptable way for people maybe, but I am a woman, so I guess I'm thinking about it as women to like communicate that. It's quite cool.
Yeah,
maybe that's why women
exactly.
comedy is so good. You think about like Motherland and things like that,
Yeah.
like such a relatable, traumatic, really difficult time of your life can be so funny.
Yeah.
Because it's so relatable and so ridiculous, like the things that happen to you, it might as well be comedy, so you might as well laugh about it.
Exactly. If you don't, you know, the whole thing, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And then, but it is that whole thing of like, you know, you're probably not allowed to come and say the trauma. If we make it funny, then it makes it, then at least, you know, other people who haven't experienced it can identify with it in a way, because it's like, oh, well, it's funny. They're finding it. But I always found, and I don't know, as you are fellow funny women, I don't know if you ever find this, when you do actually go and you don't deflect something with comedy, when you are actually upset and visibly upset with some people who don't know you very well, they I mean, I've had people physically recoil from me because they're so shocked, because it was just a silly thing, like I just had my car repaired and then I'd parked my car and somebody had reversed into the door. And I just burst into tears. And I was with like a group of people that I was doing a show with, and I just burst into tears. And they didn't know what to do because they were like, is this a bit? Is she doing something? What's she doing? And I was just like, no, I'm really upset. And it doesn't help that my sincere voice and my sarcastic voice are exactly the same. So people never know if I am being like really sarcastic or whether I'm being genuine, which is my fault. But yeah, they didn't know what to do. And but then I quite enjoyed that. I thought that was quite funny because I'm just like, you literally don't know how to deal with me while I'm crying my eyes out over a silly car door. Like in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter. But they were just kind of like, uh, sure, it'll be fine. And I'm like, it's yeah, it's but I do find it. I think it's that sort of perverse side of me that's like, well, this is really funny. I've just made you really uncomfortable.
Because we had this idea for this show that we kind of haven't written yet, and it's all like, is it this, is it an album, is it a musical, is it a sketch, is it just a theme for our lives? But like it was it was about kind of women not being seen, not feeling invisible, and then like kind of giving them power to be seen how they want to be seen and stuff. And we are calling whatever it is Dare to Be Seen. But when we were we've like had time to write it and time to kind of try and get some stuff out of our brains for it, and every time it's gone down the kind of serious, intense route, it just feels so odd for us, doesn't it? And then we'll end up writing something really stupid to kind
But
of
I think you should lean into that. I think that's where you're going to find that little moment of magic, because where it's making you feel awkward, you'll come through the other side of it. And yes, I completely agree. Do that thing and then do something really ridiculous afterwards to sort of, you know, whatever. Because I really enjoy that, because you're going to get people and then they're going to end up, you know, if they're really sort of like, oh, this is a really serious moment, and then you cut through it with something else. I think that would be delicious. Using your trauma that way. Sorry, me saying your trauma is delicious. But I think we've got to sit in those places to also acknowledge that you can be, you know, I found that since I've had Rex, and I did suffer from postnatal depression as well. And it does completely change you as a person. You don't realize, and I don't just mean the time aspect of it, like it completely rewires your brain that you don't know who you are. And I would say it took me, I mean, I'm still discovering who I am now. But he was 2 years old before I even saw a glimmer of the person that I used to be. There was somebody there that I was just like, oh, there she is. And I remember saying to people, like friends who I had made in the pandemic or at the end of pandemic or after I'd been pregnant or whatever, just being like, you haven't met her and I loved her and you haven't met her and I wish you could. And they're like, yeah, but you're somebody else now. But I find that that's what I find hard sometimes is sometimes I feel really serious and I'm like, they just think I'm boring because I'm suddenly really serious and adult and sensible. But I mean, I am, I'm 20 years older than some of the people I'm working with. So obviously I'm going to be more serious about like, I don't actually think that's a good idea to do all those drugs 5 minutes before stage. Just to clarify, nobody in the show is doing drugs before going on stage. But yeah, I have like a more sensible hat on. But it does get my back up as well, though, when people say like, "Oh, I'm getting total mum vibes from you." Well, I am a mum, but also, but how? What? Because I'm being a decent human being and caring, empathizing with you, and going, "Oh," and that I'm just kind of like, shut up. But yeah, I do. It does completely change you as a person, and I do find that there's a lot of stuff where I just have no time for some bullshit. Just like, okay.
This we've talked about this before as well, as you care so much earlier on, and then as you get older and life throws different things and you go through different situations, we quite often say we're just sort of at a point now you just don't care about certain things in the same way.
Yeah. And I find it's there's a really funny moment in because there's like thin privilege and youth privilege and all this kind of stuff, and I've found that losing the youth privilege, and I'm not saying I'm old because I had this whole rant on my TikTok the other day where it's like, can people who are 30 or under stop saying, oh God, I'm so old, because it's like, you're not. And I lost a good friend last year who was 40. She had 3 kids, and it, and I just see these people who are going, oh, really? Oh, and I know it's an inbuilt thing and I know it's a cultural thing and blah, 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 blah. But I find it really interesting when you acknowledge or when you notice, oh, I don't have youth privilege anymore. I don't have that anymore. And especially as women in the world and what's deemed as attractive, and we've all got to be young. And then when people start saying, madam to you instead of miss and that kind of stuff, and you're like, actually, I don't care. It's quite freeing that I can say this stuff and people aren't going to be like, well, she's not sexually attractive anymore because she's voiced that opinion. It's like, well, I don't care. Good. But yeah.
Well, we might like round it up because otherwise we could just talk forever.
I know, it'd be really, really long.
I would like to be
podcast.
an episode of your like some kind of sitcom in a minute, but we
Honestly, we're going to write it. We're going to finish it.
We always ask people, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, to be fair, but we ask people what kind of advice they would give themselves looking back, going back to their younger self, from this perspective you have now. And what is there anything you would say to yourself, any advice, or anything like that?
Just calm the down, all right? That's what I'd say. Just live your life like not worrying so much. And it's really hard when you're in it. But like, yeah, the whole thing of like if I could say I'm here and I'm doing this, and actually it's wonderful, but also it's not the be all and end all. Find other stuff. Have some hobbies that you don't monetize, for Christ's sake. 'Cause I'm just like, oh, I can do that. Maybe if I do some pottery, just do something and not worry about being bad at it and just enjoy it, because we are here for such a short amount of time in the grand scheme of things that I think, yeah, just shush. So I'd say, calm down. I would never tell my 10-year younger self to shush,
Yeah, what
because
would
she'd
she
she'd be like, but yeah, just enjoy each thing that you're in at the moment, because it goes so quickly, and you suddenly realize, like, I know that however hard I'm finding this moment, in 10 years' time, when I look back, I'm going to go, God, look how young you looked. And look what you were doing. Look at all the stuff you were doing. How amazing. But yeah, it's really hard when you're in it. And I just remember when we were at uni, everyone was reading The Power of Now. And it is that. It's like, it's very hard to live in the present moment, because, it's gone. It's gone. But yeah, just sort of relax a bit and enjoy the moment that you're in. Stop trying to chase stuff, because if it's going to happen, what's meant for you won't pass you by. So
Thank you. That's very cool. Thank you very much.
no, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Geri, for being our first guest from the West End. First of many, I'm sure.
And we, at this point, are very much looking forward to coming and seeing the show.
By the time this has gone out, well, we'd have been to see it, won't we?
Just
day out, Bell Street day trip. So we will obviously let you know on our socials whether it's any good.
Which we know it
will
is.
be great.
We've seen clips.
What I really loved about that interview was how real it was, and obviously there's all these kind of cool stories about famous people and whatever, and doing all these things, and then just real life. And no matter where you end up, real life, it still feels like real life, and you're still doing real life, and you're always living 5 years ago's dream, aren't you?
Yeah. And just keeping going and battling whatever things come at you and whatever the consequence is going to be. If you just keep showing up and putting yourself out there, amazing things can happen.
So keep chasing that dream.